Jen, I really dig that intro.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
pretty cool.
so. I'm not sure
Yeah.
it plays as well as a podcast as it does it for the video cast, but it's pretty cool. So, those of you listening, watching live, welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. With me, pretty much as always, is our marketing director, Jen Wabor. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Adam.
I do that all the time. Yes, it's morning where you and I are, but not always where our guests are and where our audience is or whenever they're listening. However, it is morning as well where our guest is. So let's welcome back to the show for a sequel, as we put it, Paul Wozniak. Good morning, Paul.
Hello, thanks for having me. Great to be here as always.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have you back, and I'm really glad to know that. We had some chatter before we went live, and obviously there are a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things going on in the world, in real estate, and in Woz's life. So, yeah, without too much hesitation, I would say let's jump in. I know Jen and I had already talked about what a bizarre 2021 we had, and it wasn't all bad. There was a lot of bad, but there was a lot of good. I dealt with, the death of our nanny's son and our nanny moving back to Europe. My wife's mother who lived with us died. My wife's stepfather who lived with us died. My beloved 6-year-old English Mastiff died, all over the course of that year. But it was there was a lot of good as well. So I don't want it to seem like it was all dark and gloom and doom, and I think that's probably true of everybody. Jen, you had said that 21 was rough for you. Same kind of thing, a lot to deal with, a lot of achievements as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's actually some crossover with the two of you. You are both now certified licensed yoga instructors.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm with Yoga Pod in Fort Collins, which is just the most wonderful community. I teach one class a week. That's my part-time gig. Yoga has been, a saving grace. And as we get deeper into the discussion here, I think it'll be what I wonder is, because I've had a rough year. Everybody's had a rough year. Personally, some personal issues, some depression issues and that kind of thing really came to a major head this year. And I often wonder how much worse things would be without my yoga practice, because it centers me, allows me to find my breath. And, there's a couple of things that without them, my son, my girlfriend, and my yoga practice, I think that I can imagine it getting much worse. A lot of people have had it worse than me, but it probably would have been a lot worse for me. Jen, how helpful do you find your yoga practice to be in coping with the stresses of life?
Yeah, we had a great talk last year with Piper and Justin Knoll about what can you do in your space in this COVID time that you can find some peace and some normalcy in. And that was absolutely yoga for me. I teach at Cambio Yoga along with I teach at my vet office once a week, which is a blast.
That's really cool. Is it animal yoga?
No.
I've heard of goat yoga.
Right. No, but it is in their really cool vet office that I can literally see from my window. So that's cool. But yeah, I think we all just kind of have to find whatever grounds us a little bit. And I never thought I'd end up actually teaching yoga, and I absolutely love it. So right there with you, Paul.
What's your what do you teach? You teach a vinyasa or flow?
I teach vinyasa. Yep.
Yeah. I got my 200-hour certification in vinyasa, and then Yoga Pod has a Pod Fit class, which is basically high intensity interval training. So I did a supplemental 30 hours to get certified to teach that fit class. So Friday morning, 6 a.m., Yoga Pod, Fort Collins. But
cool.
The reason why I joined that studio in the beginning was for community. I started off, they have a great program, and I didn't necessarily need it, but you volunteer 3 hours a week for unlimited yoga. And I knew that would be a way for me to get deeper into the community rather than just joining as a member. And that's why I did that. And there's more community than I ever imagined. It turned out better than I could possibly imagine as far as the communities involved.
Absolutely.
And I think for both of you, while we could certainly define it as a side gig of sorts. I think for both of you, it's providing some relief, emotional relief, stress relief, whatever the case may be from the usual grind, as it were. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
100%. It's a side gig as far as how often I do it and what I get paid, but it's central. I mean, I practice real estate just about every day, and I practice yoga every day, and I practice parenting every day. And beyond that, there's not that much that I do every single day. So it's central for me.
That's a good one. And parenting is relatively new to you.
Yeah, my boy's 6 now.
Okay.
I love meeting new parents who are about to have a child or who are early in it, and I get to tell them how front loaded it is as far as like, I don't know what it'll be like to parent a teenager. I'm sure that's going to be quite the challenge. But, at this point, I could tell my boy, go brush your teeth, go put your clothes on. Whereas in the beginning, you got to put every stitch of clothing that they wear on them. You have to feed them every spoon of food that they eat. You have to do absolutely everything. And that has been, my son and everything that goes along with that has been just the most wonderful thing. And I am just enjoying so much. He can almost tie his own shoes. And like, once he can tie his shoes, I'm pretty much done parenting, right?
No, actually, I think for me, the threshold is wiping your own ass.
Yeah.
Once you're old enough to do that, I just open the door and cut them loose like feral cats.
Smooth sailing after that. Right?
I will, without scaring the audience too much. Yeah, I have parented a teenager. I am parenting a teenager, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it just, every age brings something new, something different. Teenagers are tough, no question. Young adults are tough. Toddlers are tough. It's all tough. It's like the real estate business, right? We always hear about either what a great time it is to get into real estate, or what a difficult time it is to be in real estate, right? So we're talking about, I don't know, yesterdecade, where we were looking at, you had to be decent at short sales and REOs and bank-owned property. That was a great and difficult time to be in real estate. Right now, huge inventory shortage. It is a difficult and great time to be in real estate. I would rival that to parenting.
Yes. Yeah.
Every age is great and difficult.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And some of my coaches say that, regardless of the market, people are moving, people are buying, people are selling. So there's always a real estate practice out there. The myth that is out there, though, is that as prices rise, it gets easier for realtors, which is not at all the case.
No.
It's just, they see that the price rises and assume that it just means bigger commissions and everything is standard, when, because those prices are rising, because inventory is so low, because so many buyers are cash buyers and are tough to compete with, that we're in the dozens, 20, 30 offers for one buyer in order to find them something that actually gets accepted.
Not that much easier for the sales side. Now you've got to go through 20, 30 offers with each client, explain the pitfalls of each, the benefits of each.
Yeah.
I think what those of you that have a lot of experience, Woz is a great example, that what changes is you get better at your craft. Like anybody who's got a decades-long career, whether it's an actor, and we could probably name dozens or hundreds that got better and better. Look at Matt McConaughey, right? Here's a guy, when he was early in his career, I was like, what a moron. How did this guy ever get a job? And then we start looking at more recent film work that he's done, and now he's really good at it. He has worked at his craft. It's not less work. He's better at it. He's more productive with it. He may even spend a little less time doing it, which hopefully all of you that are in real estate or mortgages or financial planning, whatever the case may be, you have techniques, you have tactics, you have systems, you have technology that has made you better at what you do. Maybe you're able to perform in less time, less stress, less effort, but It's not that the job gets easier as you go on. It's that you get better at it, so it looks easier.
My my biggest asset, and the thing that has paid the most dividends for me, is learning to write good, clean offers. You know, complete offers. Everything's thought out. Really leaning on Remax Alliance and my colleagues and my mentors and my peers to look at offers. One of the last offers that I got accepted was because the person that I was co-buying with, Jane Spencer, she and I do a lot of work together because we love to work together, and we get each other's back. And so I had brought her in on this deal, and she was 25% of the deal, just because we were going to help to sell, and that's how that worked out. But she said to put in this special clause about, and I forget specifically what it was, but it was basically all our T's were crossed, all our I's were dotted. And that was the thing that the listing agent said had them accept the offer, is because, everything looked really good. Plus we had this clause in there that really made it complete. So a good, clean offer, and, a realtor that knows how to write a good, clean offer, whether you're buying or, even on the selling side, a good, complete listing where everything's taken care of makes life so much easier for everybody.
Agreed. We were working with a coaching client, I think in 2019. And she was a brand new agent, no question about it. And at the time, it was a side gig for her. She was just getting started in real estate. And she wrote an offer, had her managing broker review it. Managing broker said it was okay, not okay. And in fact, it was so rough, the listing agent called her and said, "Are you new to the business?
Yeah.
Let me help you write this offer so that my clients will accept it." Yeah, so that is a really good skill to have, to develop as time goes on. And certainly right now, that may be one of the most important skills right now.
Yeah. Good, complete offer, thinking things over and reaching out for help. I know that I'm here to help anybody who calls me on just about anything that I have the ability to help with. And that offer that I was speaking about before was reviewed by some other people as well. And then I sent it to Jane for the final touches. And it was like not one set of eyes, not two sets of eyes, but three sets of eyes of people who care. And, a great brokerage, I think, is definitely something that is indispensable, because we can't do anything on our own.
Yeah.
We're better when we're together, and just having help and reaching out to people that can help us out is probably, besides developing that individual skill set, but also having those people behind you that can help out and that really care about you and care about the business to help out with that.
It takes a village.
Yeah,
it does. So, Paul, what other coping mechanisms, I guess, would be adequate for somebody who's been dealing with the shitstorm that 2021 brought on? What else are you guys doing? Jen, you're included. What else goes on besides yoga?
Well,
where do we find pitfalls? How do we avoid them? How do we get out of the pits? Those kinds of things.
Well, I think I had to fall into it.
Okay.
Because mine was a bit of a long time coming, and a lot of the issues that I face are ones that are minor enough that I can ignore them for a while, and then they compound, and then they build, and I am just so thankful to my higher power, to all the people around me, and to my existence, that it didn't get worse than it was. But I really had to fall really low. And like I said, if I didn't have my yoga practice, the bottom probably would have been lower than it currently is, until I reached out for help. And for me, it's absolutely essential that I realize that I can't do anything on my own, especially these big challenging things. Things started to build back in 2016 when I lost my radio career because the company was cutting costs and making big changes. And, no offense taken from them. They were running a good business and seeing the future and seeing what was coming. So the folks who started radio back in 1996, like I did, with respectable salaries, were just expensive line items that needed to be crossed off. And that was back in 2016. and I wasn't using the help that's available to me. I wasn't using counseling and therapy and support groups because everything was still kind of okay. So I wasn't at the bottom, and I had to hit a personal bottom in order to reach out for help, to recommit myself to some programs, to recommit myself to my higher power and my spiritual practices, that really make it possible for me to function. And so, it's very recently that my depression came to a head where I was just like, it's now unmanageable. I cannot do this anymore. And I had to be sick and tired of being sick and tired and reach out for help and commit myself to programs. So for me, like I said, I don't know where I'd be without yoga. The bottom probably would be much lower. But after that, it's a commitment to a spiritual practice and a commitment to, working my program every day and to accepting the help that is out there for me.
I think that's a big part of it right there, is just accepting the help that's there. But also, you touched on it earlier, but that community feel, especially, I mean, with COVID or not, that community feel is what we've all been lacking. When I did yoga teacher training, it was all on Zoom. So it helped start to fill that void, but not really, because you're not making the same connections. So it was getting back in the studio for me, but really it's being with people again. Like, we forgot how much we need the energy of other people. I mean, we just had our roundtable in the office last week, and I always forget how good it feels just to have people in the office, have those conversations happening, and how great that is, of course, business-wise, but mental health-wise too, just to be around like-minded human beings. I think
it's hard to fill the village void in a digital space.
Absolutely.
All credit to Zoom, to StreamYard, to Facebook's chat rooms, whatever those are called. I mean, I'm glad that these have all developed and evolved. A lot of them even before we had a pandemic and we were all sitting at home longing for human interaction. But it's still difficult, and we're getting there. No question. It looks like we're on the cusp of going from pandemic to endemic. But I mean, it's been 2 years next month or so.
And
we've been living life this way.
Isolation has been one of the things that I've been battling. And 2 years into COVID, if there was no COVID, there's a chance that I would have been isolating anyways.
That's interesting.
We'll talk about how that compounds problems of depression or problems just in general. But at the same time, as I've reached out for help, the resiliency and the resolve of humans to create solutions to problems, where before COVID, I wasn't reaching out for help, so I don't know what the situation was. But now with counseling and with support groups, I found support groups where there are meetings 24 hours a day because of COVID. Wow. So it's a bit of a bright side, because I can just go to my website and, when it turns to 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I'm on meetings in New South Wales. I'm on meetings in, Greenwich Mean Time in London, because there are so many humans that are reaching out and that need help from each other. So, that was one of the bright sides, is not only to hear these beautiful accents that I love, that I could just listen to no matter what we're talking about, but the fact that there is so much support 24 hours a day. And, we got to reach out for it ourselves, though. The Zoom window is not going to open itself.
Yeah. That kind of thing does not fall in your lap. You've got to seek it out. No question. So, Paul, forgive me, because I can only imagine. I'm going to need you to provide the narrative, because I literally cannot get my head around what kind of an impact business in particular, lead gen, getting, out and about, whether it's digital or virtual or in person. But your gig all of us require a lot of personal interaction, a lot of human involvement. And that must have been difficult for you in the last year. You must have sacrificed some of it to deal with what you were dealing with, to take the time out to seek help dealing with it, and to be on the path to recovery dealing with it. All of this has had to have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the legwork was done, I wouldn't say for me, but I did lay the groundwork by, making myself get involved at a level that, maybe I wasn't quite ready to get involved at, but I knew somehow inherently that I needed to be involved with the community, and that I needed to, rather than pay for a membership, volunteer for that membership that has created and has enriched past friendships from before, and just finding a community of like-minded individuals. And regardless of where I am that day, if I can just make myself go do that, then it's always better for me. And so I think, what I might recommend, and, as a fitness coach and a yoga teacher and that kind of thing, I always tell people that I'm very lucky because I love sports. I love yoga. So, if you don't love sports and you don't love yoga, as far as lead generation and being in a community, maybe finding the thing that you absolutely do love, that brings you solace, that brings you relief, that brings you something that, fills your heart, is probably the way to go. Find that community of people that you want to go to, even when you're feeling as low as you can get.
Absolutely. Find your tribe.
Yeah.
Because it's the tribe's members, the tribe's people that become friends, become clients, become referral sources, actually have deep-seated concerns and care about your success, you putting your son through college, these kinds of things. Yeah, find your tribe. That is a big one. Mine is certainly not yoga, but it certainly seems to ring the gong for the two of you.
Yeah, and for me, it's yoga. For anybody listening, it's whatever you're into, I think. And I got into that community because I wanted community, not because I wanted more clients. And I spend time there, and I don't talk about real estate except for when it's talked about to me.
Sure. It's a byproduct. Yeah, business is a byproduct of your tribe. No question.
It's a complete byproduct. And, I'm not the only realtor that goes to Yoga Pod, for sure. But, there's a lot of people that are my clients just because I'm there as often as I'm there, and because I'm, involved and engaged enthusiastically and authentically.
Yeah, all of those are important pieces in everything that you guys are doing. Enthusiasm, authenticity. I can't emphasize how important that is in every aspect of what you do. And I'd like to say that I've always kind of been driven by being authentic. I think what really happened is I just got tired of the bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think because of it, I can recognize when people aren't, and I can cut that out.
Yep.
I can eliminate the people that aren't authentic from my life. I don't have to interact with them.
And isn't it beautiful that, like, no matter how strange we are, there's a tribe of people out there who love us?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that is certainly true for every single one of us. No question.
Yeah. Our tribe is out there. And at Yoga Pod, we say our vibe attracts our tribe. And I think that that's very, very true of RE/MAX Alliance as well. It's authentic how people find us and why people stay. And not everybody stays and not everybody comes. But the people that we have there are very like-minded and very refreshing and very great to be a part of.
Why do you think that is? What do you think is the cause? What are the catalysts for people being drawn to RE/MAX Alliance? And obviously, Jen and I are local. We're on the Front Range as well, so we know a lot of people there. But yeah, what do you think those catalysts are? What is drawing people in? What's pushing people away?
I don't know that I don't know that trickle down economics worked or didn't work, but I know that trickle down leadership does. Similar to Yoga Pod, it's like, I want to work with people where if I look at their position and their, what they do at work, if I had to switch positions with them, I'd be proud to tell my son and I'd be satisfied. So, it's Dennis Schick and Hazel Reed and Amanda Eastwood at RE/MAX Alliance, and it's Milese Delgado and Janice Stratton and Brad Hoback at YogaPod. And these are people that I look up to, and they set the culture. So for Remax Alliance and for YogaPod, it's the culture that's created by the people who created the entity. And as we were going through yoga teacher training, I said, you have such a great culture here, but it's hard to create a culture. There's no blueprint for creating a culture. So how did you do it? And they're like, I don't know. Authentic.
It's organic. Yeah.
Yeah. It becomes organic. So I think in both cases, it's quite organic.
Fantastic. I think Jen would agree.
Absolutely.
And we certainly, I think it's probably priority number one with our mortgage company, no question. We work very hard to maintain a certain company culture. And again, if somebody doesn't fit into that, we cut it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We're very, very selective about who we're going to spend that kind of time with week in, week out. That's a big piece of it. No question. And Jen, I'd like to think that while we don't really discuss it this way, it's probably what drives who are willing to coach at Just the Tips, who are not willing to coach.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a bigger population by far. We still turn away a lot more people than we're willing to take on. And we do a lot of investigation into who these people are, a lot of conversation, a lot of research. And I think that really that driving factor, whether we've ever admitted it as such, is culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we spend a lot of time with these coaching clients. So
Oh, yeah.
it has to do with the people that, you're a direct result of the people that you spend the most time with. And these coaching clients become some of the people we spend the most time with. So it's that we align with them, that they align with us. And then there's the whole business layer, of course, too. But I think that's part of why Just the Tips is so authentic, is we really make sure that people align with what we want to be doing, what we want our culture to be.
It sounds a lot. Sounds
it
a
probably
lot.
Go ahead, Paul.
Back in my radio days, we had the Colorado Eagles on for the broadcast,
Sure.
And then this was brought back up on the great Netflix series Cheer. You guys watching Cheer?
No.
I haven't watched it, but I know a lot of people do. Yeah.
I'm Team Vontae, Team Trinity Valley. I love both of the coaches. It's a great series. But one of the coaches says that like he'd rather have a team member that has great character than great backflips, because you can teach backflips to anybody, which I don't know if that's true or not, but Coach Stewart,
yeah.
Coach Stewart with the Colorado Eagles, and now he's the president. He used to harp on the importance of character and having that be more important with the people that he brought in. And, that just, when it reminds me, it kind of makes me take a look at myself and be like, what do either of these coaches want me on? And at this point, maybe not, but that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, nobody's going to coach me to do backflips, I promise. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I have a great attitude and would bring something positive to that culture. But yeah, I definitely think that there's something about backflips being teachable.
Yeah.
No question. But I think that a lot of what drives all human interaction is that way. And yes, I know that there's an exception. And unfortunately, there's a lot of exception. We don't always feel that running with our tribe is best. We don't always feel that being authentic is best. And there are reasons behind that. Fortunately, I think for people that really do believe that, it's far and few. But I think the world still breeds an awful lot of, dark culture, a lot of tasteless. And I don't mean like, the memes that I post on social media. Those are tasteless for sure. But, that it leaves a bad taste in your mouth kind of environment. And I think that we tend to, as a society, as a species, we tend to not pay enough attention to what's important to us in that community culture, in our tribe, so on and so forth. And we get, more laser focused on, unfortunately, probably the almighty dollar And I think that those kinds of things get in the way of us being authentic.
Yeah, my most recent lessons and reaching out for help and finding support groups and counseling and everything just really encouraged me to put my well-being before money, because if I attempt to put money before my well-being, then I'm not going to have either.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I know that it's hard to see the forest through the trees with a lot of society. But yeah, and there are a bunch of analogies that make sense, a bunch of colloquialisms. You cannot pour from an empty glass.
That's
you
right.
know, those kinds of things. So yeah, self-care, self-preservation. Without it, not only are you no good to you, you're no good to anybody.
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah. Well, Paul, this has certainly been a departure from our normal lead gen content, although a really valuable one. I want to thank you for being so open and authentic about what you've been going through as of late. Obviously, you were very forthcoming about that before we actually went on air, and it certainly explained why we felt you were MIA this last year. It was very difficult for us. We felt a significant disconnect, but yeah, I do think that this has really driven it home, and Woz is back.
Well, I know I'm not the only one, and
no,
for sure.
And just being vulnerable and being authentic, and while the thing that I did manage to do was still show up for my clients. There were a few less of them this year than I wanted there to be, but the ones that I had, I showed up for. We did great deals. We took care of what needed to be taken care of, but I just, as I'm going through this and I'm early in the process, I just wanted to let everybody know that, you're not alone out there. And I've got a long road ahead of me, but I'm not going to walk it alone.
That is a great note to end on. Go ahead, Jen. Say what you want to say and then take us home.
Well, thank you, Paul. I also just love having the chance to talk yoga. I could do this whole show about yoga. So for those of you watching, you see our lovely text code at the bottom of the screen. If you are listening, text TIPS, TIPS to 63566. You can literally find everything you could possibly want to know about us at that text code. Past episodes of the show. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, we are booking into second quarter of 2023 already, which is crazy. I have started planning Mile High Mastermind and Social Media Day Denver. Social Media Day Denver will be Thursday, June 30th at Metro State University. Mile High Mastermind is September 16th and 17th at the University of Denver. So if you or anyone you know should be a speaker, reach out for sure through that text code. You can get a copy of Adam's book. Where's my camera? Just the tips. Still getting used to this new software. I'm like, where am I? You can book a free hour of coaching with us. There's literally all the things. So text TIPS to 63566 to find out all the things and more about Just the Tips coaching.
And thanks, Paul.
Yes, thank you.
I'm glad we were able to catch up because, we were thinking we weren't going to have a show this week. And I'm glad that we finally got caught up and that you were ready, willing, and able.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
You bet. All right, so we'll see you guys next week. Again, we do this live at 10:30 Mountain Time on Mondays. And join us then for another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. Between now and then, have another great week.
Bye, guys.